The only player who can change anything here is the United States. And it's because it's giving Israel a tremendous amount of financial aid, military aid, crucial military aid, and of course, diplomatic support. The minute that the United States decides to pull any of this, which is not a given at all, but if they do, that would change at least Israel's strategy.
How desperately frustrating is this situation from an Israeli perspective that you have got both sides so deeply entrenched and, of course, the families of the hostages desperate for news on their loved ones?
Well, it's beyond frustrating. First of all, you have Hamas, which refuses to release all the hostages, including babies and women. And then you have the international community trying to impose a ceasefire, which would basically allow Hamas to stay in power. It doesn't condemn Hamas, and it doesn't really include Israel's right to defend itself. So it's a very, very frustrating situation. And as Israel continues its war in Gaza, the civilian casualties will rise. And every time there's a new number that's coming out of Gaza, the world is losing patience with Israel. It doesn't have sympathy really for Israel anymore. It has more or less forgotten what happened on October 7th. And now the sympathy strictly lies with the Gazans. So this is really just a lose-lose situation for Israel. The only one who's really gaining anything from this at the moment is Hamas.
What is the pressure like within Israel on the Israeli government? Of course, from the hostage families, we can't imagine what they're going through right now. But wider society, is there a conversation about the Israeli government strategy right now?
Yeah, first of all, there's no strategy as for what happens the day after Hamas. There's still no plan in place. And of course, Israelis are divided over this issue. Most people would actually like to see moderate Arab regimes take over. Some would like an international force to take over, but the pressure on the government is twofold. It's first of all the fact that the hostages are still in there, and that every time Israel launches airstrikes, it's endangering the hostages. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that Israel is also, or the government is playing politics now. There was a huge backlash over the budget that was approved, which catered to the needs of the religious people rather than giving the money to the families that need it. That is, of course, families who have soldiers in the reserve fighting in Gaza, people who lost their homes. So the government is not very popular right now, and in particular, Prime Minister Netanyahu. So basically what I was saying is that the criticism aimed at the government is twofold here. First of all, for failing to bring out the hostages, and for every time Israel launching airstrikes, it's endangering the hostages. Of course, the Israeli army is not trying to kill the hostages. That goes without saying. But the fact that its aggressive campaign is moving further and further into the Gaza Strip, it just means that the hostages are in danger. So it's not a very popular strategy right now. And secondly, for the criticism aimed at the government for not having a plan, a strategy for the day after, that this seems to just be an endless military campaign with no plan in place, really. And also, of course, the fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu he keeps playing politics. He keeps trying to navigate between his far-right ministers and the United States, because he's trying to appease both.
So what breaks this cycle? I mean, looking ahead in the days and weeks to come, is it pressure from the UN on Israel to change its strategy? Is it pressure from the Arab nations on Hamas to maybe release some more hostages? I mean, what breaks this? Because it just seems almost like it's just in a loop of doom here where nobody wins.
The only player who can change anything here is the United States. And it's because it's giving Israel a tremendous amount of financial aid, military aid, crucial military aid, and of course, diplomatic support. The minute that the United States decides to pull any of this, which is not a given at all, but if they do, that would change at least Israel's strategy. It seems as if nobody can do anything to pressure Hamas, which is quite astonishing. But of course, it's a terror organization, but you would think that they somehow act at least rationally when it comes to certain things, but it doesn't. Nobody can pressure Hamas to do anything. The fact that the entire international community cannot convince or pressure Hamas to lay down its arms goes to show that a terror organization, which is relatively small, can continue to dictate a war with the international community just looking and trying to pass resolutions that have absolutely zero effect.